Imagine you're holding a book, an ancient book that people have read for thousands of years. This book, called the Bible, is filled with stories and teachings that millions of people follow. But there's a big secret hidden deep within its pages, one that almost no one talks about. For centuries, people have misunderstood the secret that Jesus himself shared. A long time ago, when Jesus walked the earth, he called God his Father. You've probably heard that before, right? But here's what most people don't realize. When Jesus said Father, he wasn't just talking about his connection to God. He aimed to convey a crucial message to everyone. You share the same connection to God as he did. This is a huge deal. It means you are not just some ordinary person walking through life, powerless and small. No, Jesus was saying that you are part of God. You have the same divine spark inside you that he did. Most people will never realize this, living their entire lives unaware of their incredible connection to God. Over time, people have buried, twisted, and nearly forgotten this message. The truth is, many powerful leaders and religious teachers throughout history were afraid of what might happen if people found out they had this divine power inside them. If everyone understood their connection to God, akin to Jesus, they would no longer require external guidance on how to live their lives. They wouldn't need to follow old rules or traditions just because someone told them to. Some parts of the Bible covered up, misunderstood, or even banned the real message of Jesus. People who discovered this secret frequently faced silence or accusations of insanity. Some even faced punishment for attempting to spread this truth. If you don't know this secret, you might go through life feeling powerless, thinking you need to wait for someone else to save you or tell you what to do. But Jesus was trying to show us something very different. He meant that you have the power to change your life, connect with God, and create the world you want inside of you. You are part of God, just like Jesus. When you come to understand this, everything transforms. People's understanding of God was very different then. Back in the days of the Old Testament, people saw God as a powerful, sometimes even scary figure. They believed that God demanded sacrifices and punished those who didn't follow his commands. We're talking about a time when Abraham and Moses walked the earth, around 1800 to 1200 BC. The God they knew was a God of strict laws and sometimes harsh consequences. Around the year 30 AD, Jesus started teaching about a different God, a God of love, forgiveness, and compassion. Jesus called this God Father. And here's where things get really interesting. Jesus wasn't introducing a new God. He was trying to help people see God in a completely different way. If you've ever read the Bible, you've probably noticed something strange. The Old Testament and the New Testament seem like they're talking about two completely different gods. In the Old Testament, God seems strict, even demanding. He commands wars, asks for sacrifices, and punishes those who don't follow his rules. Consider tales such as the Flood, approximately 2300 BC, in which God wipes out almost all of humanity, or the plagues of Egypt, approximately 1300 BC, in which he sends terrible punishments to free the Israelites. Many early Christian groups, like the Gnostics, a religious movement around 100 to 300 AD, believed that the God of the Old Testament wasn't the same as the one Jesus spoke about. They thought the Old Testament God was actually a false God, one that kept people from understanding their true divine nature. According to these groups, Jesus wasn't just teaching people about God. He was liberating them from this false understanding and revealing the truth about who we really are. Sadly, these early Christian groups were often silenced or called heretics. Over time, the message of universal divine connection faded away due to the ban on their teachings. Instead, Christianity focused on the idea that Jesus was the only Son of God and that regular people were separate from this divine power. But that was never what Jesus meant. Even in the Bible itself, Jesus says things that hint at this secret truth. For example, in John 10:30, Jesus says, "I and the Father are one." Jesus meant this not only to illustrate his unique relationship with God, but also to serve as a clue for everyone. Jesus was showing us that we all share this divine connection. We are all one with God, just like he was. This misunderstanding has shaped the way many people see themselves and their relationship with the divine. But now that you know the real secret, you can start to see things differently. You're not waiting for some higher power to come down and save you. You already have a connection to that power. You just have to realize it. The truth is, the power that Jesus spoke about is already within you. He came not merely for worship, but to teach. His message, when fully understood, can help you realize that you are part of something much bigger. People have stuck for too long believing that only a select few can have a deep relationship with God. But the truth is, everyone has this connection. It's time to stop misunderstanding what Jesus was trying to teach and start living with the knowledge that you are divine, just like him. This might be hard to believe at first, but remember, the biggest secret often hides in plain sight, waiting for those who are ready to see it. If you understand what Jesus was really teaching, it opens a whole new way of thinking about yourself and your life. He wasn't just telling people to believe in something outside of themselves. He was showing them that they hold divine power within. Spiritual empowerment is a big idea, but let's break it down into something simple. Imagine you've been told your entire life that you need to follow certain rules, wait for someone else to guide you, or rely on outside help to succeed. Now imagine someone comes along and tells you, actually, you've had the power to do it yourself all along. That's what Jesus was doing. When he called God Father, he wasn't just pointing to a relationship that only he had. He meant that everyone can connect with that divine force. He taught you that you are powerful and don't need others to tell you how to live or connect with God. True spiritual empowerment means understanding that you are connected to the same source of divine energy that Jesus was. It's not something that only exists in the heavens or a distant place. It's already inside you. But with this incredible knowledge comes a responsibility. Once you realize that the power is within you, what do you do with it? Many people go through life feeling like they have no control over what happens to them. They think that life is just about following the rules, surviving, and hoping that one day things will get better. But that's not what Jesus was teaching. He wanted people to see that they have a direct role in shaping their lives and the world around them. You are not just a passenger in life. You are the creator of your own experience. God gives you the power to shape and change your reality. Jesus wasn't telling people to wait for miracles. He was telling them that they could be the miracle. Imagine receiving a key to unlock the world's most beautiful treasure, but if you never used it, you would miss out on everything that was waiting for you. In the same way, once you know that you have divine power inside you, it's your responsibility to use it. No one else can do it for you. This doesn't mean life will always be easy or that you'll never face challenges, but it does mean that you're not powerless against those challenges. You can tap into your inner strength, connect with the divine, and make choices that lead to growth and transformation. It's about seeing the world and yourself in a new way. Instead of thinking, I can't control what happens to me, you start to think, I can influence what happens by the way I think, feel, and act. Jesus wasn't offering a magic solution that would solve all of life's problems. Even better, he offered the realization that you are not alone and have everything you need to face whatever comes your way. If you don't take responsibility for your spiritual power, you risk living a life where you feel disconnected, powerless, and stuck. Imagine going through life always waiting for someone else to make things better, only to realize that the power to change was in your hands the entire time. That's the danger of not embracing this truth. You might live feeling like you're missing something, always searching for happiness or peace, but never finding it. And that's because the happiness and peace you're looking for aren't somewhere else. They are already inside you. It's just a matter of waking up to that fact. The difference between the God of the Old Testament and the God of the New Testament is striking. It almost feels like these two parts of the Bible are describing two completely different gods. In the Old Testament, God seems strict, often commanding harsh actions, while in the New Testament, through the teachings of Jesus, we see a God who is compassionate and loving. This sharp difference has caused confusion and debate for centuries. In the Old Testament, the image of God is powerful and commanding. We read stories of God demanding obedience, punishing nations, and even causing natural disasters to enforce his commands. Some of the most well-known stories, like Noah's Ark around 2300 BC and the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, show God's judgment in action. He floods the earth, wipes out entire cities, and demands sacrifices to show devotion. People view the God of the Old Testament as a ruler, a judge who upholds laws. People feared this God because they believed any disobedience could result in punishment, famine, or war. Moses, one of the great leaders of the Old Testament, around 1300 BC, received the 10 Commandments, a strict list of rules that people were to follow closely. There was a clear focus on God's authority and the consequences of not obeying his commands. Fast forward to the New Testament and everything seems to change. When Jesus arrives around 30 AD, he presents a completely different view of God. Instead of a distant ruler, Jesus describes God as a loving Father, full of grace and mercy. Jesus' teachings focus on forgiveness, love, and kindness, which contrasts sharply with the Old Testament stories of punishment and judgment. The portrayal of God undergoes a transformation, resulting in a softer, more relatable understanding. God is no longer someone to fear, but someone who offers unconditional love. Through Jesus' message, people begin to see a personal relationship with God, one based on love, not just obedience. This dramatic contrast between the Old and New Testaments has sparked debates for centuries. Some early Christian groups, like the Gnostics and Cathars, went so far as to believe that the God of the Old Testament and the God Jesus spoke of were not the same at all. The Gnostics, who were prominent from around 100 AD, believed that the Old Testament God was a false God, one that kept humanity in spiritual darkness. They thought Jesus came to free people from this false God and reveal the true divine being, the God of love and light. Other Christian groups disagreed, believing that the Old and New Testament gods were the same, but that humanity's understanding of God had evolved. According to this view, the people of the Old Testament were not ready to understand the fullness of God's love, so they saw God in more simplistic, often fear-based terms. The arrival of Jesus aimed to foster spiritual growth, unveiling a more profound and affectionate aspect of God that had always existed. One of the key roles Jesus played was in helping people see God differently. When Jesus called God Father, he was showing that the relationship between humans and the divine didn't need to be based on fear and strict obedience anymore. Instead, it could be based on love, forgiveness, and personal connection. This change wasn't just about shifting rules or traditions, it was about shifting the entire way people thought about their relationship with God. In the Old Testament, people often felt like they needed to earn God's favor through sacrifices and strict obedience to the law. Jesus demonstrates in the New Testament that God bestows his love freely. Without earning it, people must accept and live with love. Some people have hidden, misinterpreted, and even banned this secret knowledge. But today, you have the opportunity to rediscover it. Understanding that you are part of God changes your entire outlook on life. This is what spiritual empowerment truly means. Know facts, but live with the understanding that you are God's creation and that creation is you. You are not just here to follow orders or live in fear. You are here to create, to connect, and to discover the divine within yourself. If you're enjoying this content and finding value in these eye-opening truths, consider supporting the channel by hitting the Super Thanks button. Your contribution helps keep this knowledge flowing, allowing us to continue exploring these important topics together. The world today feels chaotic and uncertain. Many people are searching for meaning, looking for answers in a world that often seems divided and disconnected. But here's the thing, the answers you're looking for aren't outside of you. You already have the answers within you, just waiting to unlock them. Jesus came to help humanity understand this. He wasn't asking us to follow him blindly, he was showing us the way to our own spiritual truth. What you want in life, love, peace, and strength, is already inside you. It's about realizing this, waking up to it, and then living it. This is the key that unlocks everything. The knowledge that has been hidden, banned, and misunderstood for so long is now in your hands. You can claim Jesus' divine power, but you must act. You don't need permission or approval from anyone else. You just need to believe it. Jesus didn't teach to create fear or control. He taught to free us. He wanted to free people from the chains of old thinking and limited beliefs. He wanted people to see that God isn't far away, looking down on us, but is within us, present in every moment of our lives. In the end, this message is a call to action. It's not about waiting for a miracle. It's about realizing you are the miracle. You have the power to change your life, to create the future you want, and to discover the divine truth within you. As you move forward, remember this one thing: you are not separate from God. You never were. The secret Jesus wanted to share is that the divine is already a part of you, always has been, and always will be. The only question is whether you will embrace it. This is not just a comforting thought, it's a reality that has the potential to transform everything. When you truly understand that the divine power lies within you, you stop looking to others to fix things, and you start to see your own strength and potential.